Hi guys, I'm Zoe from Zoe's Fancy Cakes, and today we are over in Florida, in Orlando, and we're going to be making a Loungefly backpack. So I'm going to start with the ears, and I'm going to use some modeling paste. I'm going to use the Tiffany coloured one, but I'm actually going to mix in some CMC powder, or you can use Tylos powder as well, guys. Now I'm going to roll it out and cut 2 circles, and then I'm going to put an indentation of a thinner circle just inside that. I'm going to cut a little edge off each one, just so that these fit against the bag, so there'll be a curve on the bag where they go. I'm going to stick a kebab skewer, a wooden kebab skewer, into each one for this. Now, I'm cutting a smaller circle of brown modelling paste, and then I'm tracing on the pattern from the bag. So I've used some greaseproof paper, I traced this on the bag, and then I put it onto the modelling paste and cut around it. And then once the brown is stuck on each ear, we're going to put a little line along the edge. Let's paint on some little highlights. So I am looking at my bag when I'm doing this. I realise my highlights are not quite the same colour as the ones on the bag. And this is just edible powder mixed with some dipping solution, or you can use clear alcohol. Then we're going to stick some sprinkles on there as well. These are just little pieces of fondant in colours that we're rolling into little sausage shapes. Just going to create a little template using some greaseproof paper and tracing over the different components of the bag. Let's roll out some pink modelling paste, and then let's go over that traced template that we've got from the bag and then cut that out. Just put an indentation all the way around the edge. This is going to have little stitching lines in it later. We're going to do the same thing with some red paste and a little Mickey cherry. Carefully cutting that out. And then let's do the little tab for the top. So we're making all the things that we need to set hard first. So we've rolled 2 strips of brown, fairly thin, a little line at each side where the stitching would go, and then we're going to stick them together. Let's cut off the ends. Now I'm going to add a small cocktail stick to each one. Put that to one side to dry. Let's add our highlights to the little cherry. Now you can do this bit before it's had a chance to dry. You can use edible powders mixed with clear alcohol or rejuvenated spirit to create a paint, or if you prefer, you can use edible pens for this bit as well. So I'm going to do the white bits and then the pink bits. The pink's not quite the right colour that I wanted, so I'm just going to use a small piping nozzle and some royal icing. Guys, I was too lazy to make my own, so I just bought the royal icing ready-made on this occasion. And we're just going to add a little bit of food colouring. So I used a bit of peppermint and a bit of aqua mixed together for this. Trying to get colour as close as I can to the ears. What I'll do, guys, is put links in the description below to the exact products that I used for this. And we're just going to pipe little lines in that little indentation that we drew earlier, or that we pressed in earlier. And you're going to do that on both ears. And we're going to need to do the same thing on the brown section. So you're just going to colour up your royal icing, and we're going to pipe that along the line of the chocolate drip. Now, it actually took me a little while to do the stitching lines, but I think it was worth it. I think they definitely look nice with the stitching lines. And you're going to do the exact same thing on those other pieces that you've made using the relevant colours. Once you've done that, we can stick the cherry on, the Mickey cherry, and then let's put our other sprinkles on there as well. So I'm going to start with a rectangular cake for this one. So this is about 10 inches across and 7 inches across the other way. And then I'm going to cut a smaller rectangle that's going to be the pocket at the bottom. Then I'm going to curve the top of the bag and make it slightly narrower than the bottom. And I'm working on this so it's kind of laying flat on its back because I thought that was the easier way to do it. I'm going to cover the whole thing in a layer of buttercream. Just smooth it down the best you can. So this first layer is like my crumb coat, so that's going to go in the fridge. So while I leave my first crumb coat, and I should have put this in the fridge, guys, and I left it on the side while I was making this bit. We're making an indentation for the little Mickey faces, and I've just got a kebab skewer, and we're just trying to make a Mickey outline in paste. So 1 big circle with 2 smaller ones. We're going to let that set nice and firm. So that is in gum paste or modelling paste that I've made that one. And then to cover the back, I've put my buttercream on a piece of greaseproof paper or baking parchment paper, and then I've placed my cake on top of it. I thought it was going to be easier than standing it up on the end to do it. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the whole thing in a layer of chocolate ganache. Now, I've already put some buttercream on, but because it's going to stand up and it's quite tall, I need something pretty firm so that it holds it all together. I don't want this to fall apart when it stands up. So I am using white chocolate ganache and we're going to cover that. So pop that in the fridge once it's had time to set. Give it maybe 15-20 minutes just to make sure it is nice and firm. You're going to put some chocolate ganache on a cake drum. I'm just using a marble effect cake drum, and then I'm going to pick that cake up and put it onto the drum. Just make sure it's sealed nice and tight across the bottom, and you can also cover the back at this point as well in ganache. Now I'm going to cover the whole thing in piping gel so that I can stick my fondant on, and I'm using a Tiffany coloured fondant for the top. I'm going to stretch it on, and I have the bag here to look at so I can see what it looks like, but I'm going to take this down to the pocket area, and I'm going to add a little line near the front, and then let's cut that off across the top of the pocket and around the sides. Let's put that line on the back as well. Now for the zip, I do actually have a mould, but it was just a little bit small, so I'm going to put these lines in by hand for the zip. So lots of little lines coming across, and then lines going the other way. I feel like that's difficult to describe what I'm doing, guys, so I apologise. Now we're going to cut 2 thin strips for either side of the zip, so that it will start to look more like a zip soon. They've also got a little indentation in each side as well. Again, this is for when we add our stitching to it. So we've got lots of stitching to add to this one. Now at the front of the bag, I'm actually going to stick some chocolate drips. So just another little drip effect that I've cut out on some paste. I'm just sticking it down with piping gel. And we're going to cut that off where it meets off the edge or that indentation that I drew earlier. Draw a line around the edge again, just like we did with the ears. And I'm going to paint the zip gold. So these particular paints are just water activated paints. Again, I'll put links below to the ones that I'm using. And I do sell most of the things I am using in my shop, guys, but obviously you don't have to buy them from my shop. So once the gold's on, I can then put some more stitching lines on. Again, using the royal icing, the same royal icing I was using before on the ears. So you can see I do have a zip mold. If you've got a zip mold and you want to use a mold, that's absolutely fine. It was just a little bit small for what I wanted, but I can use it for just sort of the ends of the zipper bits. Then the other pieces I actually had to cut by hand. So kind of a rough rectangle. And I tried to curve one end, and we're going to try and cut out a little piece at the bottom using a straw that I've kind of squished flat. So let's stick these in place, and then we're going to paint them up gold. So let's push in the ears and the top of the bag. And next we're going to put some yellow fondant across the bottom. Now I'm going to use a square texture mat just to give me a rough guide for where I need to put the patterning on this. So I'm going to try and do it in sections. So we're going to add the front bit first. And even though the lines are already on there, I'm going to go over them a little bit deeper with my Dresden tool. Then the little Mickey face thing that I used earlier, we're going to now use to put an imprint into there. In fact, it's the back of the bag I started with. Sorry guys, not the front. Always best to practice on the back. Okay, then we'll move to the front. Now I did actually roll it a bit thick for the front. I should have gone a bit thinner with my fondant here. And again, we're just going to do the same thing again. I'm quite pleased actually with the little tool that I've made for creating a Mickey indentation. And then we're just going to add some lines around the pocket. And we want a little flap to go on the top. So a little rectangle, same patterning, little line around the outside, and then we're going to stick it just above that pocket like so, and then we're going to fold it over and press it down. Now I'm going to use chocolate ganache to stick those pieces on that I made earlier, or that pink piece, just so it's nice and firm. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing with the sides, with just adding that patterning on there. So it's starting to take shape a lot more now. You can see the top of the bag has been pushed into the back rather than the top, the little handle, if that makes sense. Next, we're going to try and do some bag straps. So this, guys, is where I start running out of time completely. So I've rolled thin a piece of brown, and it's modelling paste I've got this time, guys. And then we put in a little sort of loop as well for what will be the metal section of it. I'm going to try and stick that in the edge of my bag there. Let's move it around a little bit. Let's do one at the other side. The one at the other side is shorter because I didn't leave enough space on my board for it. Obviously, the bag in real life is not shorter there. Then the straps, they're a little bit thicker rolled out with a line down the middle. And then we're going to make a little rectangle. I'm going to use a little circle indentation in there. Now I'm going to put wires into this to try and stick it into the bag itself. And I'm going to bend them very carefully because if not, they're going to pop out. So I've put a straw inside just where I want these to go because you can't put the wires directly into the bag, guys. So there is a straw there, and then I've inserted the wires into the straw. So I've stuck this all on with chocolate ganache because if not, it didn't want to stick. I've had to stick the bag straps to the back of the bag in some places, otherwise the weight was pulling it down a little bit. Now I do need to tidy up the ganache because you can kind of see it a little bit up there. And then we're just going to pipe some stitching on. And let's just add our highlights onto there like that. So guys, I was going to paint more detailing on the bottom of the yellow of the bag, but I was due to set off on my holidays with about 5 minutes to go, and I hadn't packed, so I had to leave it the colour it is. But hopefully you guys like it and you enjoyed it, and you'll have a go at making your own. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Keep your eyes peeled for more Disney themed ones while I'm away on holiday.